Thank you for joining us for this month's Virtual Curators Tour. I'm Jenna Gilley, Associate Curator of Exhibitions at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, and I'll be your guide. Today we'll be looking at the exhibition, A Sense of Place, Abstract Art in Northern Indiana. The idea for this exhibition came about early last year. In his architectural work, local artist and home restorer Bob Cross noticed that modern homeowners and their spaces did not follow traditional design patterns. Traditional art, therefore, particularly in the classic regional landscape style, was not appropriate for these interiors. Fortunately, being a member of Indiana's contemporary art scene, Cross knew that our region was developing a new, unique, contemporary style. That is Northern Indiana abstraction. In curator Bob Cross and Abby Leon's words, abstraction is a means of understanding how individuals relate to our energetic world, both knowable and incomprehensible. There are many completely abstract concepts we believe in without questioning. Love, mathematics, money, and music are just a few. Like art, they help us define who we are and our perspective on life. This exhibition signifies an element of belonging and growth for abstract art in our region that expands on the rich history and tradition of Midwestern art. Our community, or sense of place, is just as impactful as the art itself. In our tour today, I will briefly introduce a few of these spectacular regional artists and take you through 4 pieces which I believe exemplify this statement. Our first piece and artist we'll be discussing today is by Audrey Riley. Riley's based out of Fort Wayne. She earned both of her BFA and MFA from the University of St. Francis and has taught 2D composition and illustration at the university level as an adjunct professor in addition to owning her own advertising company. She has exhibited in over 50 locations throughout Indiana. This piece, titled Heavy Summer, was actually recently acquired by the museum. It's a rather large wall hanging which features 3 layers of overlaid text, the first being printed colored letters underneath 2 layers of clear acrylic. Positive and negative space are utilized to form the composition. By cutting out, hiding, and revealing words, Riley urges us to think of language as more than just symbols we can read. Letters can also be geometric shapes and forms, just as a circle or a square. In a time when texting and media of all forms is omnipresent, Riley's approach to abstraction is particularly thoughtful. Riley notes that she was drawn to letters because of her background in advertising, where there's often an underlying message beneath the catchy slogans and glaring type. The title of this piece, Heavy Summer, can help us understand what Riley is trying to convey. At first glance, bold, colorful, and whole words like stress and kids jump out to the viewer. They're the least difficult for our brains to comprehend, and much like this past summer in 2 years of a pandemic, are the biggest things on many of our minds. But looking closer, especially in the clear layers, words like kindness, play, friend, and strong emerge. Riley's piece is powerfully relevant. It reminds us to see past the negative stressors of this heavy time to its more subtle joys. Next, we have Golden Hour by Kaylee Dalton. Dalton lives in Elkhart, graduating with a degree in fine art and painting from Ball State University. She went on to study with the late Walter Darby Bannard, a leader in the abstract and color-filled movements of the 1960s, under a full scholarship for a Master of Fine Arts at the University of Miami in Coral Gables, Florida. Her work is in nationally and internationally recognized art publications and private and public collections, and it can actually be purchased at the Paradigm Gallery at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. In this work, an arrangement of botanical-inspired collage forms bursts from the bottom left-hand side of the composition, surrounded by a sea of yellow gold. Each collaged element has its own unique texture and pattern, which adds depth and detail to the piece, drawing us in. Dalton combines a mix of processes to achieve this result, including drawing, monotyping, and encaustic work. On this painting, Dalton states, "My works are a representation of growth, or lack thereof. I interpret the fascinating consistency of botanical growth and diminishment, the expressive characteristics natural forms exude, and their relatable qualities. Comparable to people, plants are intriguing and complicated. They're always shifting, either becoming weaker or stronger, and I draw inspiration from that delicate, continuous state of flux." Golden Hour is a prime example of Dalton's incredibly complex work and how abstraction can still be evocative of the natural world while not copying it. From far away, the piece easily reads as a traditional still life arrangement of flowers, but upon closer look, Dalton's varying lines and textures shine in a colorful and completely non-representational environment. Her work kicks Indiana's history of natural painting into the future with subtle hints of neon, shimmering pen, and contained smears. The third piece we're going to look at today is by George Morrison. George Morrison received an architectural degree from Ball State University College of Architecture and Planning in 1972. He was drafted in the Vietnam War, joining the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. After 35 years in architecture, with 28 as president of the firm he founded in 1981, art became a full-time vocation. Though Morrison works primarily in clay, he has worked in other materials too and has designed large-scale projects, including the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Plaza for the Indiana Bicentennial Commission at the Lincoln State Park, Flights of Friendship for Fort Wayne Sister Cities at the Fort Wayne Airport, 2 interior sculptures for Indiana Tech, City at Superior Street Circle for the City of Fort Wayne, and projects for the James Foundation and Parkview Regional Medical Center. Unlike our first 2 pieces, Morrison's Artifacts is a 3-dimensional sculpture, illustrating a different type of abstract art. The piece consists of 2 rust-colored, elongated, beam-like structures which smoothly twist, fold, and open. Morrison states that his interest in clay fittingly began in construction, as he worked as an apprentice in his father's masonry company as a child. He enjoys clay's ability to bend and flow, while also being a sturdy building material. Here, the piece's undulating curves, juxtaposed with the metallic color and architectural shape, clearly demonstrates this interest. Morrison's history is not so unique to our state. In fact, the largest percent of Indiana's workforce is employed in manufacturing. This relationship and understanding to a piece of abstract art can help change people's perception of the style. Morrison has sprinkled in some inviting humor too, by placing a tiny figure in one of the beams, making us reassess their respective sizes. Are these to scale, or simply an architectural model of sorts? We'll let you decide. Lastly, we'll be looking at a mixed media piece by Justin Johnson. Johnson is no stranger to the museum, being gallery director for the University of St. Francis since 2002. He holds both a BA and MA from the University of St. Francis and frequently exhibits his work around the region. Most recently, his work will be included in the Poetry of the Found Object at the Midwest Museum of American Art in Elkhart, Indiana. He is represented by Crestwoods Gallery in Roanoke, Indiana. The last piece I would like to focus on today is a little bit more minimal than our other pieces, but still has a lot to say. Last Prayer of James Foley, in Johnson's words, references the life and last moments of James Foley, who was the first American citizen executed by ISIS. Similar to the Desert Elegies series, I have created multiple versions of this subject, as well as illustrated other moments from his capture and imprisonment. I incorporate gold into the composition as a spiritual portal of the narrative that is described in an abstract format. Looking at the composition, we see the overlapping of numerous geometric shapes in muted shades of tan, black, and white. Clear plastic adds texture and separates the portal of gold mentioned by Johnson like a veil from the black large shape. Thin lines, both drawn and cut out of paper, travel horizontally and vertically, always slightly off-kilter, adding delicate intentionality. A single horizontal red line severs the top portion of the black shape from the bottom, such as in Foley's execution. While subtle, Johnson's choices are not mere impulses, but carefully made decisions, which hope to stir emotion in the viewer and connect them to this tragic incident through a type of visual empathetic guide, similar to the function of a crucifix in a Catholic church. Re-envisioning the spiritual is not a new concept in abstract art, but Johnson's takes is one of the most effective. Thank you all so much today for joining me on the Curator's Tour. If you've enjoyed the pieces shown here, we encourage you to come by the museum and see A Sense of Place, abstract art in Northern Indiana, on display until March 13th.